rain has eased into a steady drizzle by the time the Lieutenant Harris and the remaining members of Alpha Platoon stumbled into an abandoned village. Mud caked their boots and their breaths came in ragged gas as they leaned against broken walls and collapsed huts. Harris scanned the horizon, his fingers still gripping his M16 tightly, eyes darting at every shadow that moved with the mist. Grayson sat against the wall, trembling and pale. His helmet was gone, his uniform torn, and his wide eyes refused to meet anyone else's. Parker and Michaels huddled nearby, muttering quietly about what they'd seen. Harris couldn't blame them. Their words was laced with fear and disbelief. Harris crunched in front of Grayson, his tone firm but not unkind. "Grayson, look at me. We made it. You alive. We're gonna make it, you hear me? We're gonna make it." Grayson's eyes flickered up, his voice shaky. "They'll come back, sir. They'll come back. We're just meat to them." Before Harris could respond, a rustling sound came from the jungle's edge. It was everyone. Rifles snapped up, the remaining soldiers forming a loose defensive line, their nerves stretched to the breaking point. "Identify yourself!" Harris called out, his voice echoing across the clearing. A familiar voice answered through the mist, friendly. "Lieutenant Harris, that's you?" Harris blinked in surprise. "Kowalski! Kowalski, man, is that you?" A group of soldiers emerged, their forms materializing from the fog like ghosts. It was Charlie Platoon, led by Lieutenant Dan Kowalski. The two lieutenants exchanged a brief handshake, relief washing over Harris. Charlie Platoon numbers were strong, 12 men, their gear intact and no apparent casualties. "You look like hell," Kowalski said, eyeing the blood and exhaustion on Harris and his men. "You don't know the half of it," Harris replied grimly. "We ran into something." "Viacon?" Kowalski asked, his face hardening. "No," Harris said flatly. "Not VC. Something else. Something worse." Kowalski frowned but didn't press. "We've got orders to rendezvous at Firebase Echo by dawn. Figure we'll cut through here to avoid any enemy platoons. Look like we're sticking together now." Harris nodded. "Good. We're stronger together, man." As the two platoons regrouped, Harris pulled Kowalski aside and explained what had happened, in hushed tones at first. Kowalski laughed, but when he saw the raw fear in Harris' eyes and the trembling soldiers of Alpha, his grin faded. "You're serious?" Kowalski said, his voice low. "Dead serious," Harris replied. "You didn't hear the howls?" "We heard something," Kowalski admitted. "Figured it was just jungle animals." "It's not," Harris said. "When they come, aim for the head of the heart. Anything else just pisses them the fuck off." Kowalski's face tightened, but he nodded. "Got it." The combined platoon set off cautiously, moving through the jungle in a staggered formation. The mist remained clinging to the ground like a living thing. Harris kept Grayson close, his young soldier barely keeping pace but refusing to fall behind. It wasn't long before the howls returned, low and mournful at first. They echoed through the jungle, growling louder, closer with each step. The soldiers tense, scanning the fog. Shoulders flickered at the edge of their vision, darting between the trees. "They're here," Harris said quietly. "Stay sharp." First attack was sudden. One of the Charlie platoon men, Private Miller, was ripped from the rear, the formation with the scream that cut too quickly. The platoon spun, firing into the fog. The growls and howls became chaos erupted. The creatures surged from the mist, their yellow eyes glowing, their fur slick with rain. They were impossibly fast and strong, leaping into the fray with claws and teeth that tore through flesh and bone. Harris and Kowalski barked orders, trying to maintain some semblance of order, but it was a desperate fight. Grayson screamed and fired wildly, his bullet striking one of the beasts in the chest. Stumbled, snarling, before Harris finished it with a shot to the head. The thing crumpled, blood pooling beneath it. But two more took his place. "They're flanking us!" Owen shouted, emptying his magazine into a charging beast before it slammed him into a tree. He didn't get back up. "Grenades!" Harris roared. The soldiers hurled grenades into the fog. The explosion lightened up the jungle for a moment. The creatures pulled back. Their howls faded into the distance. By the time the attack ended, only 7 soldiers remained standing. Harris, Grayson, Kowalski, and 4 others, bloodied and battered. They stumbled into another clearing, this one dotted with abandoned American equipment, likely the remnants of failed operation. "Firebase Echo isn't far," Kowalski said, panting. "We can make it." But Harris shook his head. "We need to make a stand." Soldiers scavenged what they could from the clearing, finding claymore, mines, extra ammo, and even a working flamethrower. Harris set up a defensive perimeter, placing claymores to cover the most vulnerable approaches. "If they come, we hit them with everything we've got," Harris said. "We hold this line or we die here. You all hear me? We fucking die here." The final attack came just before dawn. The fog thickened and the howls returned louder and more feral than ever. The soldiers waited, their weapons ready, hearts pounding. Creatures charged, the claymores detonated, shredding the first wave. The flamethrower roared to life, spewing fire into the mist. Harris and Grayson fought side by side, their bullets finding heads and hearts as the beast closed in. One by one, the creatures fell, their bodies piling up, but the cost was high. Kowalski was dragged down by 3 of the beasts, his screams hunting the air. Parker and Michaels were torn apart in the melee. By the time the sun broke through the mist, the jungle was silent again. Harris and Grayson stood alone, surrounded by the carnage of man and monster alike. Blood soaked their uniforms and smoke hung heavy in the air. "They're gone! The werewolves are gone!" Grayson said, his voice hollow. "For now," Harris replied, staring at the horizon. "But they'll be back. They'll be back." Grayson looked at him, his face pale but determined. "What do we do, sir?" Harris slung his rifle over his shoulder. "We get to Firebase Echo. We tell them what happened, and then we figure out how to kill every last one of those things. Each and every one of them motherfuckers need to die." As the sun rose, burning away the last of the mist, the 2 men began their long walk through the jungle, their steps heavy and determined.